Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Okay. So last time we talked about 5 workouts to help your 5K. I'm going to continue doing these live stream series over the weekend. Now we're going to talk about 5 workouts that you can incorporate into your training that will help your 800 and your 1500 meter performance, as well as 3K and 5K. So it's a multi-pace training system that I emphasize, that I prescribed for my own athletes, and it goes a long way towards building strength, short term and long term, for 800 meters and your 1500 meters or your mile. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from 8 minute mile all the way down to 4 minute mile. For those of you who haven't seen some of my other videos, one of the things I emphasize is testing your athletes or yourself uh, after you've built up about an 6 to 8 week base period of running, testing yourself at a mile to see what your accurate current fitness is, right? And what that does is it helps set your training paces for a lot of different things. And what I've done also is I've set up all the training paces and pace ranges accordingly. And I've also put forward the equivalents for an 800, 3K, and 5K. So basically, if you're running an 8 minute mile, this is what you should be running at some point for these other events. And then workouts to build around that to help you get there. And then we'll go 7:30, 7 minutes. We're going to go 30-second increments all the way down to 4 minute miles. Okay, and you'll see the slides that pop up when it goes over everything. And if you have questions at any point, put them in the comments. Put them in the comments, okay? So I know people tend to come on little by little by little, and that's totally fine. But let's get to it, because I don't want you to miss anything. And if you're a runner or a coach, do yourself a favor. Don't leave without subscribing to this channel, please. You see the line down below. Just hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy the content, hit the likes. It's really helpful when you hit the like button. But I want to make sure that as many people as possible can take advantage of this content. I've got 400 plus videos for you for free on this channel. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, slide one's going to pop up in a second. And again, this is if you run an 8 minute mile and if you run a 7:30 mile. We'll go over each one, okay? As you can see here. If you run an 8 minute mile, that means you should eventually be able to run 3:41 to 42 for the 800. Your 3K should be around 15:44, which is 8:24 to 8:25 per mile. Your 5K, about 26:55, 8:39 to 8:40 per mile. Now, some people may be able to run faster for certain events and slower for certain events, and that'll give you a good idea of what you need to do, whether you need to improve the aerobic component of your conditioning or the speed component and whatnot. So it's one reason why I give a multi-pace training system. Tempo runs, building towards a 20-minute tempo over time, 9:08 to 9:10 per mile. Okay, if you could do that, it's a good way to simulate a continual hard effort, like a 5K race. Okay, now workouts. 8 to 10 times 200. This is an 800 meter pace. You're building towards this over time. With a 1 minute recovery, you're looking at 54 to 55 per rep. Okay, which is 341 and 342, which is right at 800 pace. 6 to 8 times a 400, or building towards that over time. But a 90-second recovery, if you can get down to 60 seconds, that's a good thing. Okay, 158 to 159, that's spot on for the mile pace. Okay, or second under. 5 to 6 times 800 with a 2 minute recovery at 3K pace, which is 311 to 312. Okay. Okay. Oh, excuse me. 321. 320 to 321. No, sorry. No, you're right. I'm right. That's good. 311 and 312. Excuse me. I got confused for a second. Excuse me. And then lastly, 5 to 6 times 1K. And again, you're building towards this 800s over time. You're building towards these 1K efforts over time. Okay. 5 to 6 times 1K at 5K pace with a 230 recovery, 520 to 522 per rep. Okay. Just like the 311 and 312, 800 per rep. That's 3K pace with a 2 minute recovery. Good clockwork. And if you can do, essentially, if you can get to the point where you can do 2 miles worth of running at mile pace, you're in good shape. If you can do 3 miles worth of running or build towards it at 3K pace, you're in good shape. If you can get to the point where you do 4 miles worth of 5K pace running, you're in good shape. Those are the kind of the top end max distances, max volumes. Okay, now let's pivot over to 730 per mile. If you're a 730 per mile runner, if that's your goal, you're looking to run about 328 to 329 for the 800. 1445 for the 3K, which is 754 to 755 per mile. 5K 24 to 2420, 808 to 810 per mile. You'll see the pace increase from one segment of the mile towards the next segment. You'll see how it gets a little bit faster here. And tempo run, you're building towards 842 to 844 per mile. And then the same workouts there, 8 to 10 times 200 and 800 pace with a 1 minute recovery, 51 to 52. That's what you're looking to rep. 6 to 8 times 400, rest 90, building towards rest 60, 152 to 153 per rep. Okay. or slightly. This is closer to actually 7-minute pace. So you can go 154 and give yourself a little bit of cushion. So 154 to 155 per 400-meter rep is okay too. 5 to 6 times 800 with a 2-minute recovery at 3K pace, 356 to 357 per rep. And then 5 to 6 times a kilometer at 230 recovery at 450 to 452 per rep. Okay, so that's what you're looking for if you're running 8-minute mile or 7:30 per mile. Okay, now we're going to go to 7:30 and 7 minutes and 6:30. Okay, so now 7-minute mile, you're looking at about 314 to 315 for 800. 3K 313.48, which is 724 to 725 per mile. Right. 5K 22.44, which is 736 to 738 per mile. All right. Tempo 812 to 814 per mile. Okay. Now the workouts 8 to 10 times 200 with a 1-minute recovery. 47 to 48 is your 800-meter pace. 6 to 8 times 400, rest 90. 144 to 145 is your goal mile pace. Okay. 5 to 6 times an 800 at 3K pace with a 2-minute recovery. 341 to 342 is your 3K pace. And 5 to 6 times 1K effort with a 230 recovery. 431 to 432 is going to be your 5K pace. Okay, this is what you're looking to run per rep. And again, you're building towards this volume, building towards these paces if you're not there yet. And like I said earlier, you might be able to run faster for some of these workouts, slower for some of these workouts, and it'll tell you what you might need to do. If there's slower paces here, if they're faster paces here, whether you need to work on your speed or your aerobic, and that's why you have tempo runs here. That's why you have faster pace and short and 800-meter pace and 3K pace and 5K pace. And again, for middle distance runners, I can't emphasize this enough. As a form of VO2 max training and strength training, a steady diet of 3K pace and 5K pace training for a miler and an 800-meter runner goes a long way. So I highly encourage you to incorporate it into your training, whether you're a coach or an athlete. Can't recommend it enough. Now let's move over to 6:30 per mile. Okay, your 800, you're looking at about 3 minutes per 800, 301. Your 3K is now 1250, 653 to 654 per mile. Your 5K, 2208, about 705 to 706 per mile. Okay, and your tempo, you're looking to run 742 to 744. Again, building towards 20 minutes of consecutive tempo running over time. If you need to break it up into pieces, you break it up into pieces. I have a video on this channel that tells you how to break up or how to build towards a 20-minute consecutive tempo run in pieces so your body can adapt, so the people that you're coaching can adapt. Because a lot of folks will start with 20 minutes riding right away and they'll fall apart and not really understand why. That's why I have it that way, where it's like two times 8 minutes and then 16 minutes and 2 times 10 minutes and 20 minutes. You build it up in 4 pieces. You can even go 6 pieces. So I encourage you to take a look at that video, how to build towards a 20-minute tempo run. Okay. 200-meter efforts, 8 times 10, or 8 to 10 with a 1-minute recovery. 44 to 45 is your 800-meter pace. 6 to 8 times 400 at the mile pace with a 90-second recovery. And again, you're trying to work towards 60-second recovery over time. 136 to 137 per rep. 5 to 6 times an 800 with a 2-minute recovery. Your 3K pace is 326 to 327. And 5 to 6 times 1,000 or 1K with a 230 recovery at 424 to 425 per rep, which is your 5K pace. So now we've done 7 minutes and 6:30. We've done 8 minutes, 7:30, 7 minutes and 6:30. Now we're going to go to 6 minutes and 5:30. Again, the same type of concept here. Okay, so if you're working towards 6 minutes per mile, it's a sweet spot. Your 800 should be around 246 to 247. Okay, 3K you're looking at 1153 or 621 to 622 per mile. Your 5K looking at 2030, 635 to 636 per mile. Tempo run you're looking at, it's generally about a minute or slightly slower. A minute to 70 seconds slower per mile than your mile actual, your mile all out. It's right around that ballpark, give or take a few seconds. Okay, so 710 to 712 per mile you're looking to run for a tempo. Now your workouts, 8 to 10 times 200 with a 1-minute recovery, 800 pace, 40 to 41 per rep. 6 to 8 times 400 with a 90-second recovery, building towards 60. 129 to 130 should have been a dash there per rep. That's your mile pace. 5 to 6 times 800 with a 2-minute recovery, 309 to 310. That's your 3K pace equivalent for a 6-minute mile. 5 to 6 times 1K, 1,000 with a 230 recovery at 404 to 405, which is your equivalent 5K pace. Now, again, some folks might need to do 3-minute recovery. That's okay too for the 1,000-meter efforts. Okay, that's essentially Fulcrum or VO2 type running anyway. So if you need to go to 3-minute recovery and build towards 230, that's fine too. Okay, gauge, follow your body, coach with your eyes, and not only your stopwatch. Coach with both of them if you're coaching your athletes. So see if they're able to maintain an even pace, or whether it's slowing down throughout the workout. That means you might need to alter the paces or alter the recovery. So the important things to keep in mind. Now, 530 per mile, you're looking at 232 to 333 for an equivalent 800, 1054 for a 3K, which is about 549 to 550 per mile. Your 5K is looking at about 1850 now, which is 603 to 604 per mile. The tempo run, you're looking to run at 638 to 640 per mile. Again, building towards 20 minutes consecutive running. Okay. 8 to 10 times 200 with now a minute recovery. Okay. At 37 to 38, 800 meter pace. 6 to 8 times 400, 90-second recovery. 121 to 122 per rep. That's your mile pace. 5 to 6 times an 800 with a 2-minute recovery. 254 to 255. There's your 3K pace. And 5 to 6 times 1,000. Again, if you need to start a 3-minute recovery, that's fine. The goal is eventually to get to 230 recovery at 344 to 346 per rep is your 5K pace. So you see the progression over time. Okay, and again, you could do other things too. You know, if you can't do 5 to 6, or if people tend to be a little bit more strength oriented, instead of doing 5 to 6 times 1,000, you could do 4 to 5 times 1,200. Similar volume, but the rep is a little bit longer. You're staying a little bit longer in your zone there. So some people might benefit more from that, or some people might not only be able to handle that, or some people might need to go back down 800s at 5K pace. This is where I said coaching with the eyes is important. See who can handle what. Take notes. Is he or she better at this? Is he or she better at that? Okay, where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? What do we need to work on? And again, this is why I always emphasize a multi-pace training system. Okay, and getting an accurate indicator of somebody's current fitness. That way they're training, he or she is training at the current appropriate paces for them at the time. Okay, because sometimes you'll have 7-minute milers trying to hang with 8-minute milers, 5-minute milers trying to hang with 6-minute milers, and vice versa. 5-minute milers trying to hang with 430 miles, or 8-minute miles trying to hang with 7-minute miles. It's not ideal. Okay, if they're hanging on for dear life in a workout where other people are comfortable and just on a roll, that is dangerous. So training at the appropriate pace range is absolutely important. That's why the mile time trial and doing it at the right time is absolutely critical. Now let's go to the next pace ranges. Okay, 5:30 and 5 minutes and 4:30. You're on a 5-minute mile. You're looking at about 216, 217 for an 800. Your 3K is going to be around 954, 517, 518 per mile. Your 5K is looking at 1710, which is about 532 to 530 per mile. Your tempo run, you're looking at 606 to 608, building towards 20 minutes. And at this point, 24, you can get to the point where you can do 4 minutes. 4 miles. The cutoff point for 4 miles is essentially 25 minutes. So if you can get to the point where you run 6:15 per mile for 4 miles, that's 25. That's 25 seconds. That's 25 minutes for a tempo. Okay, now looking at 800 meter pace, 8 to 10 times a 200 with a 1-minute recovery, 36 to 37 per rep. That's your 800 pace. 6 to 8 times 400 with a 90-second recovery. Again, trying to build towards a 60-second recovery over time. 114 to 115 is your mile pace per rep. 5 to 6 times an 800 with a 2-minute recovery. 237 to 238 per rep. That's your 3K pace. And lastly, 5 to 6 times 1K with a 230 recovery. Like I said, if you need to start a 3-minute recovery, that's fine. 324 to 326 is the goal pace you're looking at. Again, you got your 800 meter pace workout, your mile pace, your 3K pace, and your 5K pace workout. So all the things that you need as a middle distance runner to help improve your 800 and your mile, or your 1500, is here for you. Okay, you got slower pace running, you got the VO2 max, you got strength pace running, you've got speed stuff. The 800 meter pace stuff will act as speed work, or slightly faster for a mile, right? So And mile pace act as good pace simulation. It's one of the toughest things to do is mile pace workout. If you can get to the point, like I said, where you can do 2 miles worth of running at mile pace, goal mile pace, then you're in good shape. Now let's move over to the 430 mile. 430, you're looking at about 202 to 203 for 800. Some people might be able to run a little bit faster. Depends on them, a little bit more speed oriented, right? Your 8K is looking at about 855, which is 445 to 446 per mile. 5K 1530, 457 to 458 per mile. Okay, your tempo, you can get to the point where you do 532 to 534 per mile for 20 minutes or 4 miles. You're in good shape. Okay, 8 to 10 times the 200 with a 1 minute recovery at 29 to 30. It's 800 meter pace are slightly faster. It is your 800 meter pace workout. 6 to 8 times 400 with a 90-second recovery. Again, building towards a minute. And 66 to 67 to 106 to 107 per rep. There's your mile pace workout. 5 to 6 times an 800. 2-minute recovery. 3K pace, 222 to 223 per rep. And then 5 to 6 times 1 kilometer with a 230 recovery. That's the goal. But if you need to start at 3 minutes, it's fine. At 304 to 306 per K for 1,000 meter effort. So, and that's your 5K pace workout. Okay. So I see we got a question here. Let me get that before I get to the last slide here. You can mention thanks for starting the live stream. My pleasure. Just ran 230 for the 800, 551 per mile, 13 minutes for the 2 mile. Do you have any advice for aerobic? So 13 for the 2 mile, which is 551 for the mile. So you're looking at, I mean, you want to build towards this one here. Vipin. This 530 per mile that I just put on here, and I went over this already, you're going to look to build towards these paces over time. Okay, and if you notice something there, if you're in 551 per mile, this is slightly faster, obviously, but if you look at 6 minutes per the mile, if you look at the 3K, you're at 13 minutes for the 2 mile. 3K here is 11:53, so that's a little bit slower, a little bit faster. 550 miles. So your paces are actually pretty on point for the most part. 230 for the 800. You're a little bit faster too, the 800 too. So that's a good thing. I would be looking towards this right now. So if you look at the 530 per mile, you're already there for the pace you would need to run for the mile. So doing a healthy diet of stuff at 3K pace to 5K pace would be a good idea for you, Vipin. A good idea. I think you see if you look at the bottom, the 800 meter rep workout, 5 to 6 times 800. That's 3K pace. If you can get to that point where you're building there, and then you want below it, 5K pace workout, and then a tempo run. If you can build towards 20 minutes of running at 638 to 640 per mile, that will be a really, really, really good aerobic component to the training. And again, this primary thesis of this video here is to help improve everywhere else using a steady diet of 3K pace and 5K pace at the right paces, okay, to help your 800 and your 1500, or help your 800 and your mile. It'll obviously help your 3K and 5K too. But look at this slide here, 530 per mile. I would be designing workouts around that as kind of your next milestone to achieve, your next goal. Does that make sense, Vipin? And I'll get back to this. I want to do the final slide. Final slide is 4 minutes per mile, okay, which is, I mean, that's the gold standard, right, in running. So I'll get back to your question in 1 second, Vipin. 4 minute mile, you're looking at 148 to 149 for 800. Fast. Your 3K is going to be about 756 per mile, which is 414 to 415 per mile. Okay, 756 for 3K, 414 to 15 per mile. 5K looking at 1348, 425 to 426 per mile. Now you're looking at tempo runs again, 458, even 5 minutes per mile. You can do, if you can get to the point where you do 5 miles in 25 minutes, which is 5 minutes per mile, and that's a good tempo workout for a 4 minute miler. Okay, now you're 8 to 10 times 200, 1 minute recovery, 26 to 27. That's 800 pace. 6 to 8 times 400, 90-second recovery, building down towards a minute. 59 to 60 per rep. And we're going to go over some mile pace. I'm going to break down this 400 meter workout for you a little bit differently. 5 to 6 times an 800 at 3K pace with a 2 minute recovery, 206 to 207 per rep. 5 to 6 times 1K. At this point, you should be down 230 recovery, sometimes even 2 minutes at 244 to 245 per 1,000 meter effort. And that's your 5K pace. Okay. So let's catch back to Vipin here. To Vipin. One last question. What pace should I start in your tempos at the shape I'm in right now? Look at, so go back here. Let's go. Is this the slide here? So Right now, if I were you at 550, see if how comfortable you feel running 7 minutes per mile, and try to do. I mean, if you don't feel like you can do 20 minutes consecutively, start at 12 minutes, okay? And then if you feel good there, next time you do it, a couple weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later, try 16 minutes. And then if you feel good there, and then you go towards 20 minutes. If you need to build towards 20 minutes in pieces, okay, then you build towards 20 minutes in pieces. But since you're at 551, slightly faster than 6 minutes, I'd see if you can go around 7 minutes per mile, Whipping. It's about a minute to a minute 10 slower than your current mile pace is your tempo. So look for about 7 minutes. If that feels good, build on that, and then work towards a 638 to 640 per mile over time. Let your fitness dictate. Okay, let a race dictate. Let a time trial dictate when you can increase training paces, if that makes sense. So anybody else that's on here, just let me know you're in here in the comments. If you have questions, leave some questions in the comments. So I wanted to get back to the workouts. If you see, I did 4 to 6 times, or even 6 to 8 times to 400, right? You can do this a couple different ways, okay? Some folks can't handle 8 times 400 mile pace because that's an aggressive workout over time, okay? You can do 2 sets of 3 times 400, okay, first, which is 6 total. Break it into 2 pieces, right? And you do them at mile pace. And you can even do the first set at your current mile pace, the second set at your goal mile pace. What you can do is you can take a 90-second recovery, okay, and then in between the rep, and then take a 3 to 4 minute recovery in between a set, okay, and then repeat. Or you can do 75 seconds recovery or 60 seconds recovery. It depends on what you feel you can handle. Okay, working down over time towards 60 seconds. If you can do 6 to 8 times to 400 with a 1 minute recovery at mile pace, that's the sweet spot. So if you need to progress from 90 seconds to 75 seconds to 60 seconds, that's okay. But do the whole workout in one recovery. Okay, at least for starters. Okay, so that's a great way to do it. And then you can do 6 consecutive as your second workout, right? And then you can do 2 sets of 4. Okay, with similar recovery. And then you can do 8 consecutive. So again, it's just like the tempo. It's not the easiest thing in the world to build towards the ideal number right away. You can break it up into pieces and get yourself there. It's called periodizations, allowing your body to adapt to a certain training stimulus, if that makes sense. So, and again, this is how you can get your athletes or yourself to handle the workouts over time and not be overwhelmed when they look at a workout and be like, oh my God, this is a tough workout. This is a way you can build them over time to get them to the point where they can physically and mentally conquer these workouts and recover properly and do other things they need to do for all these types of workouts, whether it's 3K pace, 5K pace, whatever it is. Okay, that's the key. Building over time. Okay, same to you, Vipin. My pleasure. So that's the way. Then you can do the same thing with the 200s at 800 meter pace. Okay, you can do 2 sets of 5. Let's just say with the 1 minute recovery, and then you could take 2 to 3 minute recovery or 4 minute recovery in between the set, and then do the same thing again. And then you have your on the other end, you could do 2 sets of 4 for 8 of them, 2 sets of 5 for 10 of them. Just like the 400s, you could do 2 sets of 4, then 8 consecutive, then 2 sets of 5, then 10 consecutive. It's a way of building towards the goal end, the end point of these workouts. Okay, the ideal volume, ideal pace, and so on. And then when you get to this milestone, you can adapt your training paces towards the next goal. But again, it's important to look at it. So, and I'll bring this up again. Let's just use a pace barometer here. Okay, the reason why I give the pace ranges here is so that you can see where you might be stronger, where you might be not as strong. So if you're faster on the 800 but slower on a 3K and a 5K, that's a sign to work on aerobic stuff, 3K pace, 5K pace, and tempo. If you're faster on the aerobic stuff than you are the speed stuff, the 800, it's a sign to do more 800 meter pace training or even faster than 800 meter pace training. So that's why these pace ranges are important, because it'll give you an idea of what you can work on and when and how often and why. Okay, and not everyone is going to fit the same, the exact pace ranges everywhere. This is where people's strengths and are all different, but this gives you an opportunity to figure out how you can modify your training and make it accurate for you. Because again, you don't want to be running his workout, you don't want to be running her workout, and vice versa. Okay, you want to be doing the things that you need to do at the time you need to do it. That's going to help you progress. And again, don't get me wrong, there are some athletes who can just handle the harder work, and you'll find those talented athletes you'll find the girls who can run with the boys, you'll find the boys who can run with the faster boys. It doesn't matter. Or the girls who can run with the faster girls. That's going to happen over time, and you'll discover these things. And you're like, what do I have here? and then you can modify the training accordingly to make sure that this athlete's not overdoing things. So that thing you'll find over time, and you'll see, like, if, okay, this person's hanging on for dear life here, and if I have training groups, I might move him or her back to the slower group and put them at the front of the pack to make sure that they can handle the workout. Or if this group here, this guy or this girl, it's too easy, then you can bump them up to the faster group. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Some folks are doing 800s, and if you feel like this group is good, but this person here, I want her here, but she can't hang it, you can have her do 600-meter efforts at 800-meter pace, okay, or at the 800s that they're doing, okay, which is 3K pace or whatever it is. So some folks can handle longer reps, some folks can't, and that's another way how you can build them up over time as well. Start with shorter reps, and you can start at 600s at 3K pace, then build towards 800s, right? You could start at 800s or 600s at 5K pace, build towards 8s, build towards thousands, build towards 1200s. All these things you could do over time, okay? You can do 8 to 10 times 600 with a 200-meter jog at 5K pace. Just good rhythm running. That's good if you want to start some person with shorter reps, or if it's a late season, you want to get just some good race pace running, but not overdo it with an athlete. You can cut the reps down a little bit in terms of distance, still get 3 to 4 miles worth of running, just at shorter reps at your goal 5K pace, and it won't tax your athlete as much. So there's a lot of different ways that you can manage this type of stuff. So I hope you found this helpful. And again, if folks have any questions, leave them here. Leave them in the comments of the video. If there's other videos that folks want me to do, let me know. Because I'm going to do other things too. We're going to work our way up. 2 mile. We're going to work our way up to 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. I'm going to do this same type of concept here of good workouts, things to build towards, no matter what you're training for. Okay, and things to look out for, no matter what you're training for, so that you or your athletes can benefit the most. And again, factoring in training environment, lifestyle, whether you work and go to school, both, either, how to fit in the training around your life instead of fitting your life around the training, okay, to make it manageable for you, because at the end of the day, we want you to still enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the sport, right, and run fast at the same time. It is possible, okay? So, but anyway, I hope you found this helpful. And again, if you did, hit the like button if you don't mind. It's very helpful to the channel. And please hit the subscribe button if there's anybody here that hasn't subscribed to the channel yet. I hope that you enjoy the content enough to do that. And take a look. I've got 400 plus videos already for you. So whether you're a runner or a coach, there's stuff here for you. Good stuff. Accurate stuff. Okay. And this is all based on 2 decades as a coach. I've experience working with some of the best coaches and best therapists out there. Some of the best athletes around too. So I've been fortunate enough to have been able to build up my own personalized coaching system over the last 2 decades. And as a former competitive runner, I do speak from experience on that regard as well. So have a great weekend, everybody, and run smart, run hard, be well, and I'll talk to you next time.